Hello, welcome back to LM Teaches English. This is lesson 6 of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, the play edition, and that was written by Simon Stevens and it was adapted from the novel by Mark Haddon. And this is a GCSE set text for the AQA Literature Paper 2 question. And remember, on this question you don't get given an extract, you just get given a choice of 2 questions and you choose which one you answer. So what we're doing in these lessons is we're just going through and reading the play. I say we, it's just me and my voices. We're up to page 26 now, and the last thing that we looked at was the well, we were looking at Ed as a father, but the scene that we ended on was Christopher had just gone round and interviewed all his neighbours, and we looked at them as the suspects of the murder of Wellington, and he met Mrs. Alexander, who was a very nice old lady who invited Christopher into her house, and he was a bit scared, so he left. Also, we saw Christopher having some nice conversations with Siobhan as well, and we saw what a trusting person that she is. Anyway, so the reason I mentioned the Mrs. Alexander is because we're back to Mrs. Alexander again in this scene on page 26. So, here we are. So, page 26, about halfway down, and Mrs. Alexander says, "What happened to you the other day?" "Which day? I came out again and you'd gone. I had to eat all the biscuits myself." "I went away. I gathered that." "I thought you might ring the police." "Why on earth would I do that?" "Because I was poking my nose into other people's business, and Father said I shouldn't investigate who killed Wellington, and a policeman gave me a caution, and if I get into trouble again, it will be a lot worse because of the caution." "You're very shy, aren't you, Christopher?" "I'm not allowed to talk to you." "Don't worry, I'm not going to tell the police. I'm not going to tell your father, because there's nothing wrong with having a chat. Having a chat is just being friendly, isn't it?" "I don't do chatting." "Do you like computers?" "Yes, I like computers. I have a computer at home in my bedroom." "I know, I can see you at your computer in your bedroom sometimes when I look across the street." "And I like maths and looking after Toby, and I also like outer space, and I like being on my own." "I bet you're very good at maths, aren't you?" "I am. I'm going to a maths A-level next month and I'm going to get an A-star." "Really? A-level maths?" "Yes, I don't tell lies." "I apologise. I didn't mean to suggest that you were lying. I just wondered if I heard you correctly. I'm a little deaf sometimes." "I remember you told me. I'm the first person to do an A-level from my school because it's a special school. All of the children at my school are stupid, except I'm not meant to call them stupid, even though that is what they are." "Well, I'm very impressed, and I hope you do get an A-star." "I will." "Another thing I know about you is your favourite colour is not yellow." "No, and it's not brown either. My favourite colour is red and metal colour. Do you know Mr. Shears?" "Not really, no. I mean, I know him well enough to say hello, but I don't know much about him. I think he worked in the National Westminster Bank in town." "Father said that he was an evil man. Do you know why he said that?" "Perhaps it would be best not to talk about these things, Christopher." "Why not?" "Because maybe your father is right and you shouldn't go round asking questions about this." "Why?" "Because obviously he's going to find it quite upsetting." "Why is he going to find it quite upsetting?" "I think you know why your father doesn't like Mr. Shears very much." "Did Mr. Shears kill Mother?" "Kill her?" So just to pause a second there, I think we're getting a good vibe from Mrs. Alexander here that she knows something a little bit more than Christopher, so than the audience in turn. So she knows something here, which is interesting, so bear that in mind. We're also learning a lot more about Christopher. Remember, this is still early stages of the play, so we're learning a lot about Christopher here as well. We know his favourite colours, we know that he likes computers, he likes maths. He's obviously in his bedroom on his computer quite a lot for Mrs. Alexander to be able to see him there, for it to be a regular thing. He doesn't talk to strangers, things like this. We're learning about him. Anyway, let's carry on from here. The drama's just picking up. Did Mr. Shears kill Mother? Kill her? Yes. Did he kill Mother? No, of course he didn't kill your mother. But did he give her stress so that she died of a heart attack? I honestly don't know what you're talking about, Christopher. Or did he hurt her so that she had to go into hospital? Did she have to go into hospital? Yes, and it wasn't very serious at first, but she had a heart attack when she was in hospital. Oh my goodness. And she died. Oh my goodness. Oh, Christopher, I'm so sorry. I never realised. Why did you say, I think you know why your father doesn't like Mr. Shears very much? Oh dear, dear. So you don't know? Don't know what? Christopher, look, perhaps we should take a little walk in the park together. This is not the place to be talking about this kind of thing. I'm going to say something to you and you must promise not to tell your father that I told you this. Why? I shouldn't have said what I said, and if I don't explain, you'll carry on wondering what I meant, and you might ask your father, and I don't want you to do that because I don't want you to upset him, but you have to promise not to tell anyone I said this to you. Why? Christopher, please just trust me. I promise. Your mother, before she died, was very good friends with Mr. Shears. I know. No, Christopher, I'm not sure that you know what I mean. They were very good friends. Very, very good friends. Do you mean that they were doing sex? Yes, Christopher, that's what I mean. I'm sorry, Christopher, I really didn't mean to say anything that was going to upset you. Was that why Mr. Shears left Mrs. Shears? Because he was doing sex with someone else when he was married to Mrs. Shears? Yes, I expect so. I think I should go now. Are you okay, Christopher? I can't be on my own with you because you are a stranger. I'm not a stranger, Christopher, I'm a friend. Okay, so really important piece of information we've just learnt there. That Mrs. Boone, so Christopher's mother, and Mr. Shears, so the husband of the Mrs. Shears whose dog was killed, were having an affair. And this is not something that Christopher knew before, but clearly Mrs. Alexander knew it, so it was something that was known around the neighbourhood. Also, Mrs. Alexander didn't know that Christopher's mother had a heart attack and died as well. Okay. And what have you been up to, young man? I went to the shop to get some licorice, laces and a Milky Bar. You were a long time. I talked to Mrs. Alexander's dog outside the shop and stroked him and he sniffed my trousers. Gosh, you do get the 3rd degree, don't you? How are you, young captain? I'm doing very well, thank you, Rodri. What's 251 times 864? 216,864. Is that right? I haven't got a bloody clue. I'll stick one of those alu gobi sag things in the oven for you, okay? Okay. With your little bottle of red paint in it, eh, Christopher? It's not red paint, it's red food colouring because I don't eat yellow food. If you put red paint into a curry, it would be extremely dangerous and it would probably kill you. Ha, Rodders, you plonker. Ed laughs at Rodri. Rodri leaves. Okay, right. This scene, we do need to pay attention, especially this first bit here. Ed finds Christopher's book on the kitchen table. Okay, so that's one thing that's going on. Another scene that's going on. Have you told your father about this? No. Are you going to tell your father about this? No. Ed goes to the book. There is a tone. He begins reading Christopher's book. Did it make you sad to find this out? Find what out? Did it make you sad to find out that your mother and Mr. Shears had an affair? No. Are you telling the truth, Christopher? I always tell the truth. I don't feel sad about it because Mother is dead and because Mr. Shears isn't around anymore, so I wouldn't be feeling sad about something that isn't real and doesn't exist. And that would be stupid. Okay, so while Christopher's having this conversation with Siobhan, Ed is reading Christopher's book, or perhaps he's reading this conversation within Christopher's book. So why might this conversation upset Ed, is what you've got to think to yourself. What was your mother like, Christopher? Do you remember much about her? I remember 20th of July 2006. I was 9 years old. It was Saturday. We were on holiday in Cornwall. We were on a beach in a place called Polperro. Mother was wearing a pair of shorts made out of denim and a stripy blue swimming costume, and she was smoking cigarettes called Consulate, which were mint flavour, and she wasn't swimming. She was sunbathing on a towel which had red and purple stripes, and she was reading a book by Georgette Heyer called The Masqueraders. And then she finished sunbathing and went into the water, and she said, "Bloody Nor, it's cold." Bloody Nor, it's cold. And she said I should come and swim too, but I didn't like swimming because I don't like taking my clothes off. And she said I should just roll up my trousers and walk into the water a little way. So I did. And Mother said, "Christopher, Christopher, over here, Christopher. Love, look, it's lovely." And she jumped backwards and disappeared under the water. And I thought a shark had eaten her, and I screamed, and she stood up out of the water again and came over to where I was standing and held up her right hand and spread out her fingers like a fan. "Come on, Christopher, touch my hand. Come on now, stop screaming. Touch my hand. Listen to me, Christopher. You can do it. It's okay, Christopher. It's okay. There aren't any sharks in Cornwall." When we were inside the park, Mrs. Alexander stopped walking and said, "I'm going to say something to you, and you must promise not to tell your father that I told you this." So that's coming from Ed, so now you know Ed is reading this from the book. "Your mother, before she died, was very good friends with Mr. Shears. Another time she used to say, 'If I hadn't married your father, I think I'd be living in a little farmhouse in the south of France with someone called Jean, and he'd be, a local handyman, doing painting and decorating for people, gardening, building fences. And we'd have a veranda with figs growing over it, and there would be a field of sunflowers at the bottom of the garden, and a little town on the hill in the distance, and we'd sit outside in the evening and drink red wine and smoke Gauloise cigarettes, watch the sun go down.'" Right, we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to stop there. We're right in the middle of this action, it seems. So Ed is discovering Christopher's book and reading from it, and he now knows that Christopher knows about Judy and Mr. Shears' affair. We're also, interestingly enough, learning a little bit more about Judy, Christopher's mother, as this is happening. So I think an interesting thing for us to look at in this session would be about, first of all, truth and lies, because that's an important theme of this play. So the fact that Ed has lied to Christopher, can you think about why that might have been? So why didn't he tell Christopher about his mother having an affair? And Christopher here as well saying to Siobhan, "I don't tell lies," and yet he is withholding information from Ed. So have a little think as well about what constitutes a lie, and is withholding information the same as a lie? So have a think about that. But also, we've got a little introduction to Judy, so maybe don't write anything down just yet. I mean, you could record some key quotes, which would be useful. Perhaps this bit about her wanting to live in the south of France with someone called Jean and smoking cigarettes and things. You could record that. But just have a think about Judy as a character, and what we're now starting to think about her. What kind of a mother she was to Christopher. I think it's interesting that in her sort of daydream here with this Jean and the south of France, there's no mention of Christopher, there's no mention of being a mother, and she said that to Christopher in Christopher's memory, so she was clearly a very open person. She wasn't hiding that from Christopher, the fact that she wanted this particular life. So that's very interesting to consider about Judy. So mainly I want you to look at the truth and lies and how they're presented in this section. So Ed seems to think it's okay to lie to Christopher. Christopher says that he doesn't lie, but clearly he is, or withholding information. It's up to you whether you want to say that's the same thing or if that's different. And Judy's very honest with Christopher, maybe too honest, up to you to decide. Anyway, we'll leave it there for today. So we've got up to page 33, and I will see you next time for lesson 7. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.